Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see everyone here this morning. We're in 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy chapter 3. Seen in the bulletin, excellent news on Donna. She's got a good report. Tumor shrinking. Her numbers are good. That's good. Good to hear. 1 Timothy chapter 3. We began there last week talking about some of the qualifications of an overseer or elder. We'd started there, we'd gotten down. I'll just start there in verse 1. We'll just start the thought. It is a trustworthy statement. If any man aspires to the office of an overseer, it is a fine work he desires to do. An overseer then must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, temperate, prudent, respectable, hospitable, and able to teach. We stopped there last week about hospitality. We mentioned that. Maybe we don't have quite as much of that today as we used to, as far as maybe inviting someone to your house, showing that hospitality. I think we're very nervous about showing it to someone we don't know in today's society. But I think it's still something maybe we want to do and we would do if the opportunity arises. It's just maybe not as often as we used to. But it's still something that an elder needs to have. Of course, we understand that next part, able to teach. If he's not able to teach, then he's definitely not qualified. But this next part, a lot of thoughts on it. Not addicted to wine or pugnacious, but gentle, peaceable. Let me stop right there. We understand not addicted to wine. We understand that. I don't think we have to go into detail on that. This is where we don't use much in southeast Oklahoma. Pugnacious. What does that mean?
Don't get drunk on it for sure, but we'll come to it on the next page.
Okay.
Where it says they're not supposed to use much wine.
What does that mean?
It means you might use it for medicine.
Okay.
In my version uses the word violent instead
Violent.
of pugnacious.
Mine has, in the old King, some of them is striker. No striker, not a striker. And
Don't
the
get
one
drunk
above
and
it,
get in a fight.
huh?
Don't get drunk and don't get in a fight.
We can pull that down, and that's basically what it is. Yeah.
Well, and I think maybe there again, it goes back to what it said before. You're not someone that's always looking for an argument or always looking,
Not quarrelsome.
yeah.
Not quarrelsome, there you go.
Yeah. But you stop and think about it. You can visualize what kind of person we're talking about here.
Well, it said pugnacious. Have you ever seen a pug? A
Well-
puppy?
What does that have to do with me?
They're like violent.
Well, okay. I think you stop and think about this. A person that does not have control, self-control, you can fall into this. A person that does not have self-control and is not dedicated to the Lord, he can fall into this.
Well, and if you're don't have the ability to listen to somebody else, you're not going to be effective because you're not going to even give them a chance to present their
Right.
side or tell you where their struggles are before you start giving them advice, and usually that is not well taken. You need to listen to whatever it is they have to say before you start.
That's right. That's right. And this next part right here, I've heard people say this could probably be the one that may hurt may catch more people than anything. Free from the love of money. Now, you let that soak in a minute. Free from the love of money. It didn't say you couldn't have money. It didn't say that. It didn't say you couldn't be rich. It didn't say that either.
That's a hard one for a lot of people.
But it says free from the love of money. When you say that, what does that mean?
All you break care about it.
Go. And that's your
Don't
God.
put money first.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, my mama said, filthy lucre.
Okay.
It means that
Yeah.
something that's not around yours, you can steal it.
Well, an overseer needs to have the desire for what? Serving God. Whatever that entails, you just,
Serving God and serving others.
and serving the church, and serving others. How can you do that when your God is money? Or that love of money? Okay, there's nothing, so many times we get it confused that, oh, money's bad, money, having stuff is terrible. No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying, if you have that love of money, that creates a whole other thing.
Well, it's probably gonna cause you to do a lot of these other things that he's already mentioned.
Exactly.
Because it's, when it's that powerful, you're gonna do whatever it takes, legal, illegal,
Yeah.
step on people, it doesn't matter, because that's your goal.
That's it. When you have that love of money, all options are on the table. Whatever needs to be done to obtain it, you're there. Okay? So he's telling you, you can't have that. You can't have that. Verse 4 now. He must be one who manages his own household well, keeping his children under control with all dignity. But if a man does not know how to manage his own household, how will he take care of the church of God? Heard a lot of comments about this one. What does that mean, managing your own household? What does that mean?
It means if you can't keep your own kids in line, how are you gonna keep other people?
Is it just our kids?
No, it's our spouses too.
I didn't say you
You
didn't.
do, I knew what you were thinking.
That's a hard thing to do, man.
He pays,
It entails so much more.
he pays his bills.
You pay, there it is. Taking care of the household, whatever it takes to keep a household running. Okay? Managing that. Supplying that money, supplying whatever help might be needed. But yes, children are involved.
A good steward of your home,
Yes.
every day.
Yes. Yeah.
Your animals, your land, your family,
Your finances.
You know, when you've heard people say, well, he's a good manager. You know, that's a compliment. If you're a good manager, that's a good compliment. And it's something to think about. I've heard this talk about some folks that's been elected to office. Well, how in the world are they going to take care of that office? Because they can't even take care of their own business. Exactly. Exactly. That's what we need to think about.
Well, it's the same thing with, like you said, with an office. Not only knowing that, yes, you are the person to manage it, but a good manager takes input also.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, like you don't just tell your children what to do. You don't just tell your spouse what to do. You work together to obtain a good family structure, a good
That's true. That's true.
And they will tell you in any, excuse me, in any management class, took some years ago, that you don't ask, on a workforce, you don't ask your employees to do anything that you're not willing to do
That's right.
yourself.
That's right.
So, you know, same thing within God's church or God's family. You don't tell somebody else they need to do something
And
if you're
doing-
not willing
that
to
is-
do that same thing
That is all
yourself.
entailed here. That's a good point. Yes.
And on top of that, you don't begrudge them if they don't do it. Because you hold a lot of animosity whenever you end up having to do more. than what somebody else might do. And you have to keep that malice out of your heart.
And I want us to think about this as we go through these qualifications. How does this differ from just being a Christian? Do you as a Christian need to have these same qualifications? Do you need to have these same attributes?
Yes.
Yes.
I know there's some, different things that may not quite match up, but as a whole,
Well,
these are the
because
same things we need to be as a Christian. You don't need to have a love of money. You don't need to be angry. You don't need to be addicted. You see what I'm saying? You say, well, man, this has been hard for some.
I think the biggest difference here is this individual just desires
Yeah.
the office of an elder or a bishop. The rest of us, but yes, we should do this, and then the ones that have that desire then can step in and do that.
Yeah.
Just like some people will say, well, I wouldn't be a teacher for all the money, or I wouldn't be a nurse for all, everybody's not suited to the same work or the same
How
job.
many of you have ever heard somebody say, oh, I wouldn't want the headache?
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
But if somebody wasn't willing to do it, where would we be?
That's it. That's it. And so many times I'm afraid we've got to be careful about this. We want to hold this up to such a high standard that no one can attain it. Is that what the Lord had in mind? No,
Anybody
it's
else?
not. Because as far as I know, I don't know of anybody that's perfect. If you're perfect, I want to know your secret. Because I don't think we are.
Yeah, you're supposed to be perfect before you become an elder.
Ask my wife, she can tell you I'm not perfect.
Hey, talking
Yeah.
about money, in Timothy 6:10, for the love of money is the root of all
Mm-hmm.
evil. For they shun covet after they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with error.
It's true.
It's like killing yourself if you sin them for loving money.
Well, look there in verse 6. And I think this is common sense. It says, "And not a new convert." Okay? I don't know that I need to elaborate on that. Because look at the reason why. So that he will not become conceited and fall into condemnation, incurred by the devil. Okay? What if you put someone in there that just became a Christian? What's likely to happen?
It's like putting a baby in charge.
Yes.
Need-
That's a good
need some
example,
wisdom
yeah.
Before you,
They're easier to manipulate
Easy
in
to
a way.
manipulate, okay.
Well,
Don't have the knowledge.
They don't have the
that's
knowledge.
it. All you have to do is hear, believe, confess, believe, and repent, and baptize. Don't mean you know everything about what the Bible says about everything. You're a new Christian. You got that learning can come on as you get older and more
I
time.
think that's a good example, just like she said,
baby in
a
charge.
child. What are they? They're still on the milk
Yeah.
of the word and not the meat.
And, even probably as scary as becoming conceited, they may get discouraged. Because
That's the point, yeah.
I think a lot of us don't have any idea, honestly, what is incurred in being an elder. And, as a new convert, that
They're
could
just
be
trying to get
very,
their life straightened out.
that could be very
Yeah,
discouraging,
you know
because
what
you're
I'm saying?
seeing these elder Christians possibly that we all do things that we shouldn't do. And some of these things are brought to the elders, and then they have to discuss it and make a decision on it. And if they're not grounded in the truth, I can see real easily, well, look, this is not for me, I'm out of here.
Yeah, and then there'll be some that'll let it go to their head.
Well, yeah, it can go either way.
You see what I'm saying? When you get, I've always heard this all my life, getting too big for your britches. Have you ever heard, you've heard that? Exactly. That's what he's talking about here.
It reminds me of my daddy used to say, you'd have those college kids come in here and be the boss, and they didn't know what they were doing,
That's
and
true.
but they thought they knew everything.
So you can look at that and having those things, being conceited or whatever, you're playing right into the hand of the devil. That's the whole thing. You're going to fall one way or the other. Okay? So he's wanting you to be aware of that. Look at this verse, this number 7, verse 7. And he must have a good reputation with those outside of the church. Why?
Because you don't want that representation of a leader in the church to be somebody who is not accepted in the community. Because they're not gonna want to learn, like, oh, he's a liar, cheater, and stealer, and he's the head of that church. He's an elder in that church.
How you gonna convert people?
They're gonna be like, that's probably what, if they're putting him in leadership, what's the whole church about?
The thing that comes to my mind right there when you talk about that good reputation, if you don't have that, you're bringing reproach upon the church. In your dealings every day, whatever that may be. If you come in, if someone says, well, I know Phil over there, he's a good old boy, but you see what they just said? There's stipulations of that good old boy. See, you bring the reproach upon the church. Man, we've got to be careful about that. And I'm afraid that could happen so easily. I mean, it takes one time if you throw a fit out there in the public. And guess what? You're labeled from now on. You're supposed to be above that. The thing you keep coming back to your mind is think before you speak. Think before you react. So many times we get them all backwards.
People will remember the bad thing a whole lot easier than they'll remember the million good things you did.
Exactly. Have you ever seen a guy just all of a sudden just fly off the handle for no reason? What has he just done? Not only has he made a scene, but he's done damage to himself and to the church. So just keep that in mind. Because, look at the next part. So that he will not fall into reproach and the snare of the devil. Who is the devil after?
Anyone he can kill.
The weak,
The
because they're
strong.
easier to,
Is he worried about the world?
No.
Yeah.
He's already got them,
He's
guys.
already got them. He's worried about the Christians and the strong.
You think, well, I'm here at church, everything's good. Guess who he's after?
Those who are out of his will.
That's something we need to think about.
The devil hits you hardest when you're at your strongest.
And if you think you're too strong to fall, because you're thinking elders should be, you know, hey, these guys has got it all together. You better be careful. I've seen elders fall too.
It's not.
I've seen elders not like elders, I'll put it that way.
It's weighing and taxing on your mind.
Well, it definitely has its stress level, I'll just put it that way.
and you know, we've talked about this once before, but again, you've got to look at, if there's charges brought against her, I'm not finding the words I really want to say it. You know, it doesn't necessarily disqualify, because the world is going to take some little bitty something
That's
and
all
blow it.
possible.
You know,
Yes.
I don't think you would ever find a man that you could go out and talk to 100 people, and every one of them, or 200 people, every one of them is going to give the same glowing return,
That's
because,
true.
you know, we just have personality conflicts and things like that.
That's true. Why do you think that the Lord, when you go to somebody, take someone with you?
Yeah.
And if that don't work, go again, take another before you come to the church.
And that's not to
Why?
say
Because you may not like me.
that's not to say we disregard all of this,
Yeah.
you know, I think sometimes what you said a while ago, putting elders and deacons on this pedestal up here, we gotta remember, they're people just like we are, doing the
That's
best, they must be doing the best they can,
Guys.
or they're not
I
qualified.
don't care who you are, we're all trying to get through this, aren't we?
Well, sometimes all it takes is, you know, I've heard people say something sometimes about like Virgil. Virgil doesn't always hear you if you say hi or something, and they say, oh, well, he snubbed me. No, he just didn't hear you. Like, that might have just been the case, or, you know, he might have been thinking about all the cattle he had to sell, and he didn't hear you.
We're not perfect,
No, but that's all it takes with the wrong person, is to say,
but I can
He
tell you
said-
this much.
yeah,
I can tell you this much. We're doing our best.
And I
We
think
appreciate you.
You gotta remember,
It's sometimes it's not easy.
And I
If
think
you stop and think about, let's just say here in this congregation, look over the past 10 years, since we've been elders, or it's been that long, I don't know. What have we been through?
a lot.
We as a church, I'm not saying just elders, we've been through 2 or 3 preachers, we've lost
lost a few.
a preacher here. Never have seen that happen. Never been around anything like that. But we've
Made it.
made through it, and we kept focused on what?
The Bible, God's word. And I think we need to remember that too, because there was an expression I used to hear a lot when I was younger is, on Sunday lunch, don't have the elders for dessert. In other words,
Yes.
you know, you have your meal and then you talk about what they're doing wrong.
Yeah,
We've got to remember they're human, and, yeah, and I think a lot of times that gets forgotten.
Yeah, there's a reason why he's putting qualifications like that down. Because it's not easy. You will be tested. You will be tested. And now you stop and think about, we put all the blame here on the elders, but look at the next part. Look at verse 8. Deacons likewise must be men of dignity. Okay, that's another word we don't use a lot. What does that mean? Men of dignity.
still that same,
Upstanding,
This
almost
says
above
reverence.
reproach,
reverent.
above reproach.
That's all included in this. Above, having dignity. Oh, is that something that's not very prevalent today? You stop and let that soak in.
Everybody wants,
Oh my.
woe is me, you know, yeah.
Look at the news. Look at I know everybody's looking at their phone. Look at all that. There's so many people that don't have any dignity today. These are men of dignity. They have the Lord in their lives. Now look at this next one. Not double-tongued.
Say one thing to one person, another to the other. Or say one thing and then do another.
That double-tongued deal, ooh, it happens today. Terrible.
Or even just think it.
And it happens back then too. So many times we want to think, well, our problems are worse now than they were back then. No. Why do you think he put them in there?
There's
Because
nothing
that's
new,
happening then.
there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
Just,
That double-tongued,
everybody just sees
saying one
the
thing
internet.
to one person, saying one thing to another person.
Tell them what they want to hear.
Have you ever seen somebody riding a fence? That just makes me so mad. Pick a side. Pick a side. Why do you think the Lord said he hated lukewarm? I'd rather you be hot or cold than lukewarm.
Yeah, lukewarm, go to church on Sunday only and just forget the rest of it.
Well, the whole thing about it is we've got to stand for the truth. Whatever side that lands on, I don't care. Stand for the truth. Stand for the truth. We're not addicted to much wine or fond of sordid gain. Okay, we understand the addicted to wine. We understand that. But fond of sordid gain, what does that mean?
Greedy for money, this says.
Yeah,
Greedy for money. Yeah.
gain tough dishonestly.
Goes back up there to,
Just the elders. Is it much different than what we just went through with the elders? No. No, we still gotta have a pretty good guy here. He's gotta be above reproach. He's gotta be someone that focuses on the Lord. Not fond of sordid gain. But holding to the mystery of the faith with a clear conscience. We're going to stop right there. But what does that mean, holding on to the mystery of faith with a clear conscience? God is. God is.
Read your Bible every day and have that hope.
And I think we need to remember on that sordid gain, that doesn't mean he doesn't make money. That means don't come about it dishonest. Dishonest. We'll stop right there and we'll take up with verse 10 next week. Thank you for your comments.